Amazing transformation. Millionaire discovers beggar with 2 kids. What he hiddenly gave is here. Jake rushed through the bustling streets of Chicago, the windy chill biting his ears. The lights of the city danced around him, but all he could think about was his latest tech deal, and the numbers that consumed his mind. He was a self-made millionaire, living in a penthouse with a skyline view, surrounded by luxury. Yet, tonight, despite all the success, a heavy emptiness filled his heart. Then, he stumbled upon a heartbreaking scene. A worn-out blanket covered a small group. Sarah, a homeless single mother, cradling her 2 children against the bitter cold. Their faces were pinched from hunger, eyes downcast, sharing a meager meal from a tattered paper bag. They huddled together, trying to find warmth in the frigid air. And Jake felt an unshakable pull in his chest. He stopped, frozen for a moment, watching them. Could he really turn away? As he evaluated his own lavish dinners, he suddenly felt a surge of compassion battling against the sting of guilt. With a deep breath, he found his voice. "Hey, would you like a hot meal?" Sarah's eyes met his, and for the first time, he didn't just see their poverty, he saw strength. Behind her weary face was a fierce love, a protective spirit that ignited something deep inside him. They talked as steam rose from takeout containers. Sarah shared stories of her struggles, the sacrifices she made, her dreams for her children's future, and the unyielding barriers life constantly threw at her. Jake was captivated. It was a slice of reality he had long turned away from, and with each word, the gnawing discomfort in his heart grew heavier. It was painfully clear. No amount of wealth could shield him from the truth that surrounded him, but when he extended a hand to support her, a spark of pride ignited in Sarah's eyes. She gently but firmly rejected his offer. Jake felt a twist in his gut, a combination of admiration and sadness. Wasn't he there a way to help without diminishing her dignity? This internal struggle left him grappling with emotions he had long locked away, the city's hustle fading into the background. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake walked away, the city buzzed around him while he considered the real meaning of success. The harsh winter air felt heavier as he contemplated whether climbing the ladder of wealth was noble, when so many were slipping through the cracks below. Inspired and desperate to make a difference not just through charity, but in paving a path for genuine change, he began drafting a plan. But when he returned the next day to find Sarah, she and her children had vanished without a trace. Panic swelled inside him. What if he lost the chance to truly connect? He was left standing in the heart of a city that felt both alive and incredibly empty, grappling with the potential to shift lives if only he could confront his fears and manage to find her again. The stakes felt impossibly high as he realized he had to try. Would he find her in time and understand how to give them what they truly needed? Jake couldn't shake the unease that settled in. Each step felt heavier as he retraced the path he'd taken the night before, searching for a familiar sign or a hint of Sarah's presence. He scanned every corner, every alley. The city, usually so vibrant and alive, seemed to mock him with silence. He stopped outside a coffee shop, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. The warmth of the cafe teased him. He took a breath, but the aroma of roasted coffee reminded him of what he had and what Sarah didn't. Just as he was about to turn away, a woman passing by paused and glanced at him. "You look lost, honey," she said with a mix of curiosity and care. "I'm looking for someone." "A woman with 2 kids," he managed. His voice wavered. She shook her head, sympathy painting her features. "I can't help you, but I sure hope you find her." With a grateful nod, Jake watched her walk away, the weight of the world bearing down harder. Each time he heard footsteps, he peeked up, hoping for a glimpse of Sarah's familiar face. It was absurd. He barely knew her, yet here he was, feeling as though he'd stumbled upon a part of himself he long neglected. Days turned into restless wandering. He found himself at shelters and community centers, asking questions, leaving his number with anyone who would listen. Yet every attempt led to another dead end. The harsh reality of her situation hit him hard. He couldn't just throw money at the problem. Sarah needed more than that. She needed kindness, resources, support. Jake returned to his penthouse that night feeling more disconnected from his success than ever. The skyline he once admired now seemed a facade hiding the wounds of the city. In an impulse born from desperation, he opened his laptop. His fingers hovered over the keys. If he wanted to help, he couldn't just rely on luck. He needed a plan that could create real impact. As he began brainstorming ideas for a local initiative, something deep inside him shifted. It wasn't just about Sarah and her kids anymore. This was about everybody who fought against the tide of poverty and neglect. He wanted to build a bridge, a means to bring support to parents like Sarah. Maybe he could partner with local businesses and create something lasting. Yet all his ambition felt just out of reach. Was he overstepping? Who was he to attempt something so audacious? Maybe it was easier to go back to his comfortable life and let the city hold its secrets. But the image of those children's hungry eyes haunted him, pulling him back like a current. With a renewed sense of purpose, he left the penthouse once more, stepping into the night, determined to find the resources to make a change. He started talking to local nonprofits, engaging with volunteers, and confirming that what he dreamt of was possible. Then he met Marcus, a community leader who lit a fire in Jake's peaceful intent. People like Sarah don't just need charity. They need empowerment, Marcus said, his voice resonating with conviction. Let us create a program that puts mothers back to work and provides childcare solutions. As Jake chewed on those words, something clicked. But just as hope started to swell, Jake received a call that turned everything upside down, a lead on Sarah's whereabouts. Would this be the chance he had been waiting for? Would he finally get to the heart of what it meant to make a real difference? The stakes were higher than ever, and Jake felt the rush of adrenaline mixed with an unshakable fear of failure. Would he grasp this fleeting opportunity and step into a world that could change everything? Jake could hardly breathe. The phone call had come from a local shelter, one of the many places he had visited in his frantic search. "We've got a woman and her 2 kids. They just came in." The words echoed in his mind as he sprinted down the slick pavement, the rain beginning to pour. Each drop felt like a sign, urging him to hurry. As he navigated through the dimly lit streets, thoughts raced through his mind. What would he say to Sarah? Would she even want to see him? He barely knew her, and yet he felt strangely tethered to her struggle. He reached the shelter and paused for just a moment outside, soaking in the gravity of the situation. This would be different. This was no longer just a quest for a lost woman, but a pivotal moment for all of them. Inside, the warmth enveloped him like a hug. The room was lively with chatter, laughter, and the subtle sounds of children playing. But his eyes quickly fell on a corner where a couple of kids played with worn-out toys. And then he spotted her, Sarah. She sat curled up in a chair, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and weariness. The faint light hit her face, emphasizing the lines of stress etched deeply around her eyes. "Sarah?" he called softly, hesitant as she lifted her gaze. Recognition flickered across her face, mingled with confusion. "It's Jake," he continued, edging closer to her. For a brief moment everything froze. A myriad of emotions flickered in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice rough yet cautious. I've been looking for you," he stammered. "I wanted to help. Not just you, but everything that's going on." He gestured around. "You shouldn't have to go through this alone." Her eyebrows knitted in disbelief. "Help? Why? You barely know me." "Exactly," he insisted, his heart pounding. "But I've realized it's more than just you. It's about mothers like you, and children who need support. I spoke to people about creating a program to empower parents, help with childcare, job placement. Your situation matters to me, and I want to make a difference." Her shoulders relaxed slightly, but she still wore that wary expression. "And why should I believe any of this? I've heard promises before." Her voice trailed off, betraying a vulnerability that tugged at Jake's heart. "All I can ask for is a chance," he replied, his voice firm yet gentle. "Let me show you that not everyone will let you down. You have dreams, don't you? Let us find a way to achieve them together." A heavy silence lingered between them. After what felt like an eternity, she nodded slowly, almost imperceptibly. The corners of her mouth lifted in a hint of a smile, but it was her eyes that spoke volumes. "Hope? cautious yet blooming. In that moment Jake felt a strange sensation in his chest, an ache. One that was both painful and beautiful. This wasn't he just about them. It felt bigger. He wanted to fight for every Sarah in the world. A catalyst for a change that rippled far beyond one family. But as they were lost in that moment of connection, a sudden commotion near the entrance broke through. Families pushed their way inside, faces filled with desperation. A mother was crying, her little girl hiding behind her. Before Jake could react, Sarah's gaze shifted to the scene. The urgency in her eyes shot through him, igniting his internal fire once again. "Do you see, Jake? This is just one part of the struggle," she murmured. "What can we really do?" Jake's mind raced. Could he truly be part of something greater? A flicker of determination ignited within him. "Let us figure it out together," he said, but just as he spoke, his heart sank at the enormity of the task ahead. Would he and Sarah be able to face this challenge head-on? Would they truly create the change they yearned for? Or was this just the beginning of a much larger battle? Jake felt his heart thud against his chest as the chaos unfolded around them. Families rushed in, a tide of worry and despair clashing against the sanctuary of the shelter. Mothers clutched their children tightly, whispering reassurances that rang hollow amid the uncertainty. He watched as panic clouded Sarah's expression, her earlier hope slipping into something darker. "What do you need?" Jake asked, a new urgency prickling at the back of his mind. "Let us help them." Her eyes widened. "Help? Do you even know where to start?" Jake paused, caught off guard by the sharpness of her response. He didn't know, not really. But he couldn't let that stop him. "We can figure it out. Just give me a moment." He made his way toward the front desk, where a tired-looking volunteer was furiously scribbling down notes. "What is happening?" Jake asked, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "A lot of families are coming in tonight. We're short on resources and it's hard to manage," the volunteer said, glancing up at him with weary eyes. "We're trying our best to get food and blankets sorted, but it's overwhelming." Jake turned back to Sarah, who was now looking at the entrance, her hands trembling slightly. "They need help and I don't know where to even begin," he said almost to himself. "Everyone needs help," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not just guidance, they need food, safety, hope." She locked eyes with Jake, and in that moment, Jake felt the enormity of her words cut through him. Hope. It was more than just a simple emotion. It was an anchor in a storm. "Let us get some supplies," he insisted, feeling a rush of determination. "If we work together we can make a difference. Even a small one matters." Sarah studied him for a long moment before nodding. "All right. But we need to act fast." Those kids, she pointed towards the entrance where a boy clutched a toy truck, his eyes reflecting confusion and fear. "They can't wait." Jake pressed his lips together, the urgency clear in her voice. He felt alive now, the earlier doubts swirling away as adrenaline took over. Together they rushed toward the storage room, gathering blankets, snacks, and clothes. Each item they packed felt like a small victory. The atmosphere around them began to shift as they worked, the sounds of laughter breaking through the cries. People began to notice the effort, stepping in to lend a hand. It was a small miracle unfolding within the shelter, allowing light to seep into the shadows. When they returned to the main area, a group of children gathered around them, eyes wide with curiosity and hope. "Is this for us?" one little girl asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jake glanced at Sarah, who nodded with a smile that lit up her weary features. "Yes, every bit of this is for you," Jake said, his voice filled with warmth. The girl reached out a hand to grab a blanket, a flicker of joy igniting her otherwise solemn demeanor. As the moments unfolded, laughter bubbled in the air. Conversation sparked between families, a sense of community beginning to grow amidst the desperation. But just as they began to feel the momentum build, the door swung open again. An imposing figure strode in, all seriousness. He surveyed the room and Jake could feel a chill chase down his spine. As the stranger's eyes locked onto Sarah, Jake's gut twisted in a way he couldn't shake. Who was he? What did he want? The fight for hope had become something bigger, and now they had to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Could they keep the momentum alive? Or was this new presence a warning that they weren't nearly safe yet? Jake's breath caught in his throat as the man strode closer. The atmosphere shifted from laughter to tension. Families clustered together, catching snippets of whispered conversations. Sarah stiffened beside him, her eyes now wide with worry. "Who is he?" she whispered, instinctively leaning closer to Jake as if seeking reassurance. "I don't know," he replied, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle between them. The man was tall, dressed in a crisp suit that contrasted sharply with the worn-out clothes of the families around him. He was an island of authority amidst the vulnerability. "Excuse me," the man bellowed, his deep voice slicing through the chatter. "I need everyone's attention." Jake's heart raced. The room quieted slowly, apprehension hanging in the air like an electric charge. The children, once cheerful, now looked at him wide-eyed, their little hands clutching blankets. "I'm here to assess the situation," he continued, scanning the crowd with a penetrating gaze. "We have resources available, but I need to ensure that they go where they're truly needed." Jake felt a spark of anger. "And who made you the judge of that?" He wanted to shout, but he remained silent, not wanting to draw attention. He saw Sarah's jaw tighten, and they exchanged a quick glance, both unsure of what was about to unfold. The man stepped further into the room and cleared his throat. "I'm with the city's emergency response team. We've been mobilized tonight to provide assistance, but we need to streamline our efforts. You can help by telling me how many are in your family, and what your immediate needs are." A mother stepped forward, holding her young daughter protectively against her hip. "We need food, sir. We haven't eaten since yesterday." He nodded, taking a note. "And blankets? Does anyone need blankets?" Heads nodded all around, and the yearning in the room felt palpable. This man might hold the key to easing at least some of their struggles. But as Jake watched him, doubt gnawed at him. He sensed something lurking beneath the surface of the man's authoritative tone, a certain coldness to his presence. "Sarah, let us focus on what we can do. Maybe we can gather a list of everyone's needs?" Jake suggested, trying to sound encouraging to her. "Right. Let us get organized," she replied, her determination resurrecting. They both moved through the crowd, inviting families to share their stories, to voice their fears and needs. As they worked, Jake caught glimpses of the man. He was no longer just an imposing figure. He was starting to engage, to listen. There was potential there. But Jake couldn't shake the nagging feeling that everything hinged on a fragile balance. When they returned to their corner, they were greeted by a gaggle of children, eager faces peeking out. "Can we help?" one boy asked, pride shining through his innocent eyes. "Yes, you can help," Jake said, encouraged by the energy. He quickly organized them into a small formation to gather more blankets and snacks from the storage area. Laughter bubbling again among the youth. In the middle of their work, a voice cut through. "You're making a mistake." Jake turned to find the man glaring at him. "What do you mean?" Jake asked, trying to keep control over his rising frustration. "Giving them hope." The man folded his arms, his expression tightening. "That only leads to disappointment. They need cold hard facts." Jake's pulse raced. Hope is what keeps them going. With each passing moment, he felt the divide between the man's view and his own grow deeper. Just when he thought he could reason with him, the man stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You really think any of this matters? They're just numbers at the end of the day." The words ignited a fire within Jake. He took a step forward, facing the man. "They're not numbers. They are human beings, families that deserve compassion and a chance." As tension crackled in the air, Sarah joined his side, her chin raised defiantly. "This isn't about statistics. It's about people, real people with stories we may never know if you keep pushing them away." The man's expression shifted, uncertainty flashing across his face for just a heartbeat. His defenses softened, but just as quickly they fortified again. "Hope can be dangerous," he replied, his voice hardening. "And if you're not careful, it can turn to devastation." The room felt heavy, each breath weighed down by the unsaid challenging implications. Could they really stand against the looming shadow of authority? Or would hope become that very thing the man warned about? Just then, an unexpected rush of people flooded the entrance. More families, ragged and tired. Jake's heart sunk as he realized the struggle was only beginning. He looked at Sarah, their earlier determination meeting the cold reality of their situation. "We can't give up," Jake murmured, feeling the relentless drumbeat of urgency echoing in his chest. But with each new face that appeared, He couldn't shake the fear that their hope was dangling over a precipice. Would tonight be the turning point, or the moment everything fell apart? Chaos erupted as the new families entered the room. The atmosphere was now a mix of confusion and desperation. Sarah immediately rushed to the entrance, her empathy drawn to the vulnerable faces. Jake followed closely, heart racing as the number of people needing help swelled. "Everyone, please stay calm," the man in the suit called out, his voice rising above the crowd. "We can only assist if you remain orderly." Jake noticed the tension in Sarah's shoulders tighten. "Do you think he even hears them?" she asked quietly, worry etched into her features. It was evident to Jake that the man was struggling to regain control, his authority contested by the rising tide of people. A father with a gaunt face stepped forward, his child tucked under his arm. "We just need something to eat. Anything will do," he pleaded, his voice breaking. "We traveled all night just to reach safety." The sight of the weary father hit Jake like a physical blow. The deep grooves of hardship on his face told stories more than words ever could. This was not just a crowd, it was a gathering of souls aching for relief, something the man in the suit seemed to ignore. "I'll see what I can do," the man replied curtly, rifling through his papers as if the answer was hidden in the bureaucracy of the situation. His eyes darted around, avoiding the anguish directly in front of him. Jake felt a surge of rage building inside. "Wait," he called out, stepping forward with determination. "We can do more than just gather names and numbers. Let us divide up the resources we have. Let us actually help them, not just process them." The man shot Jake a look of resentment, but the rising voices from the crowd began to drown out any resistance. Sarah stepped beside Jake, her demeanor fierce. "People are more than just statistics. They need our compassion." She moved to address the families, her warmth radiating as she said, "Let us figure out who needs food, blankets, and clothing. We're in this together." As Jake watched her take charge, a hopeful spark ignited within him. The children began to huddle around Sarah, watching her with bright eyes, eager for even a fragment of kindness. He smiled, knowing they were beginning to see a light amidst the darkness. The man watched the scene unfold, his face a mixture of confusion and stubbornness. But then unexpectedly he stepped forward again, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his stoic exterior. "Fine. We can coordinate better," but remember, his voice lowered. "Hope must be managed." Jake felt frustration bubble again, but also a hint of something like respect, a shared goal, yet an unyielding perspective. Hope is not a liability. It's what fuels us to push forward. Just as the crowd began to organize, a loud crash reverberated from the back of the room. A pile of boxes filled with food supplies toppled over, spilling contents everywhere. Gasps filled the air and chaos reigned anew. "Hold on," Jake shouted, springing into action. He rushed to help those who were bending down, ensuring that no one was hurt and that the supplies could be salvaged. In the frenzy, he glanced up to see the man watching him, perhaps for the first time. He saw Jake not as a nuisance but as someone genuinely trying to make a difference. As they worked together to restore order, amidst laughter and apologies, something shifted in the air. Jake felt it was more than just hope now. A sense of community was rising. An older woman approached, her eyes gleaming with gratitude. "You're doing something incredible here," she said softly. "You're giving us what we need most, a chance to feel human." Jake was taken aback, her words echoing in his heart. That was the true purpose of this night. It wasn't about food or blankets. It was about restoring dignity. It was about connection. The man in the suit moved closer, engaging more. "We can set up a system," he muttered, looking as if he was contemplating his own role in all this. Jake glanced at Sarah, both of them trying to interpret what this budding change could mean. Would it lead to real transformation? In that moment, a voice broke through the crowd, one that Jake didn't recognize. "Stay back." It was loud and authoritative, a sharp reminder that outside these walls, danger still lurked. The dread echoed in his mind, and he felt the fragile bonds they had just begun to forge threatened anew. Were they really safe? Or was this just the beginning of an even deeper conflict? Jake tightened his jaw, drawing courage from the weight of hope around him. Whatever happened next, they would fight for their light, standing together. But with uncertainty creeping into the room again, he wondered what would it take to keep that hope alive. The tension in the air thickened as the authoritative voice pierced through the chaos. Jake turned, adrenaline pulsing in his veins. He scanned the crowd, looking for the source of the command. People stepped back, their eyes wide, filled with confusion and apprehension. Suddenly, a man in military fatigues appeared at the entrance, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. His face was stern, marred by deep lines that hinted at years of hardship and resolve. "Listen up," he barked, scanning the room with a fierce gaze. "This is a secure area. We need to maintain order. If you're not authorized," he broke off, pinching the bridge of his nose tiredly. "You need to leave now." The man in the suit stepped forward, visibly shaken. "We're trying to help? The man in fatigues interrupted, his voice rising. "You think handing out food is real help? There are bigger issues at play here. Do you even know what's happening outside?" Jake's heart sank as the realization settled like a stone in his stomach. He thought of the people whose faces he had just seen. They were running from violence and fear. Yet here they were, under another shadow of authority that didn't recognize their humanity. "Please," Jake shouted, desperate to break through the heated atmosphere. "They've been through enough. They need us, not more threats." He felt Sarah's hand on his arm, gripping it tightly, urging him to stay calm. But the soldier's expression softened for just a moment, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "Look, kid, I get it. But if we don't have some control, it'll turn to panic. It could escalate and we can't let that happen," Sarah piped in, her voice steady as she stepped forward. "Not again." Her fierce determination was palpable, an anchor amidst the swirling uncertainty. The soldier regarded her, his tough exterior cracking slightly. "If you're going to help, you need to move fast. We have a limited window. We can't draw more attention to this place." Jake felt a rush of determination course through him. "Then let us organize. Let us make a plan." He looked around, meeting the eyes of those who had begun to cluster together. "We can set up areas for food distribution, which can keep things calm." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, voices rising in hope. The thrumming beat of unity filled the room, and he could feel Sarah's warmth beside him, her unwavering spirit bolstering his resolve. The man in the suit nodded slowly, glancing back to the soldier. "If we work together, we can establish a safe zone. Just please give us a chance." The soldier hesitated, his expression warring between duty and compassion. Finally he relented, giving a sharp nod. "Fine. But you've got 15 minutes. If anything goes sideways, I'm shutting it down." As he stepped aside, Jake felt the weight of urgency push him into motion. "Everyone who can help, let us gather. We can make stations for food, blankets, and care. We'll show them that they're not alone." The energy became electric as people began moving, intentions merging into a collaborative force. Jake saw families working side by side, and in that moment, a powerful connection formed. They were no longer just strangers united by a common plight. They were allies, each of them a thread woven into a shared tapestry of resilience. Meanwhile, Jake felt a gentle nudge at his side. A little girl, no older than 6, stood gazing up at him, clutching a worn teddy bear. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. His heart twisted as he knelt to her level. "We're going to do everything we can," he replied softly, mustering all the confidence he could. "Together we'll make it through." She nodded, a faint glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. As the room filled with activity, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. They were forging bonds beyond just survival. They were cultivating a community, a lifeline in the storm. But in the midst of this new sense of purpose, a sudden crash came from the back of the room. "What was that?" Sarah exclaimed, glancing nervously over her shoulder. And then, out of the commotion, shouted voices surged, a wave of panic washing over them like a cold chill. Jake's heart sank into his stomach even further. This wasn't over yet. The momentary calm they had created felt precarious now, like a house of cards ready to tumble. "Stay together," he shouted, gathering everyone around him. "Whatever is happening, we'll face it together." But as the voices rose, adding to the mix of chaos, one question echoed louder than the others. What else awaited them beyond their fragile community of hope? The sound of chairs scraping against the floor cut through the growing panic like a knife. Jake turned, his heart racing. A group of people was pushing through the far exit, their faces etched with fear. The soldier's expression darkened as he moved to intercept them, barking orders to freeze. "Everyone stay calm," Jake urged, though he felt the tremor in his own voice. Sarah clutched his arm tighter, both of them caught in the eye of a storm. He could see the little girl with the teddy bear staring wide-eyed at the chaos unfolding before them. "Please don't go out there," the soldier shouted, but his words seemed lost in the tide of panic. "Why are they leaving?" Sarah whispered, her brow furrowed. "What do they know?" Suddenly the crowd erupted. The doors crashed open and a wave of bodies spilled in, a torrent of desperate souls seeking refuge. They tumbled into the space, fear-driven and frantic. Jake caught a glimpse of familiar faces, a family he had seen fleeing the instability that had engulfed their home. A woman stumbled forward, clutching a bleeding arm. "They're coming," she gasped, voice shaking. "They're right behind us." Panic exploded in the room like a firework. People shouted, trying to make sense of the news. Jake felt his heart race as he recognized the fear mirrored in their eyes. They were all in danger. "Everyone listen," Jake shouted, his voice rising above the clamor of voice, shaking but determined. "We need to find a way to protect each other. Stay focused." But amidst the cries, the soldier began to bark orders. "Get everyone in one place. We need to secure the exits." Jake's stomach twisted. As he stepped closer to the soldier, he noticed the tension coiling in the leader's shoulders. "What do we do? Can't we help them?" The soldier's gaze softened just a hint as he shook his head, frustration lacing his words. "If they're being pursued, we can't risk it. Lock the doors. Hold the line." Fear lanced through Jake as memories of just moments ago unity and hope seemed to dissipate like smoke. The little girl beside him was watching, her teddy bear nestled tightly under her chin. "Are we going to be okay?" "Hey," he said softly, crouching down. "We're going to make sure you're safe. Promise." Before she could answer, another crash echoed from the door. The soldier flinched while the crowd gasped. A few brave souls rushed to the entrance, determined to reinforce the barricade. The commotion drew Jake's attention, but he couldn't shake the girl's gaze. He needed to protect her. "Sarah, can you help me?" he said, his voice low, almost pleading. "Of course," she replied, determination filling her tone. "What do you need?" "Let us gather blankets and anything we can use as shields. We can create a safe spot for the kids and vulnerable ones." As Sarah moved to find materials, Jake's heart thudded as he made his way through the crowd. Other hands joined him, igniting a spark of cooperation once again. People were working together, weaving makeshift barricades from anything they could find, a symbol of their resilience, of their need to protect one another. But then the commotion outside intensified. The sound of shouting intensified, melding with a low rumble as heavy footsteps approached. "Get ready," the soldier commanded, scanning the exits with sharp eyes. Jake felt a surge of panic. An incomprehensible fear gripped him. It was one thing to face the vulnerabilities of their situation, but this felt like a confrontation. It was the unknown knocking at their door, and he couldn't help but wonder how far they would be pushed. "Whatever happens next, we'll face it as a family," he murmured, finding Sarah's eye, desperate for her strength to carry them through. But just as hope flickered, the door splintered under a force that sent chills down his spine. "Hold the line," the soldier shouted again, but Jake's heart raced with a single question burned bright in his mind. How much longer could they hold on before chaos swallowed them whole? The door burst open, splintering the air with a loud crack. A gust of wind and dust swirled in, and Jake felt the hairs on his arms rise. Shadows danced at the threshold, and the crowd recoiled, a collective gasp echoing through the room. The soldier tightened his grip on his weapon, muscles taut, ready to confront whatever emerged from the shadows. Jake's eyes darted to the little girl beside him. Her wide gaze flitted from the door to his face, searching for reassurance. He forced a smile, but inside dread churned like a storm. Fear was a palpable entity in that room, an undercurrent that sent adrenaline coursing through his veins. From the threshold, a figure stepped through. Tall and imposing, it pulled back the hood of a cloak to reveal the face of a young man, eyes burning with urgency. Jake recognized the look, someone who had run, someone who was hoping they were too late to be followed. "Help! Please, we need to barricade the exit," the man shouted, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The soldier's stern demeanor faltered for a moment. What is out there? He barked back, trying to keep the panic from spilling over. They're hunting everyone. They're not far behind. They'll stop at nothing. The urgency in his voice moved the crowd. A ripple of fear and determination coursed through them, igniting a sense of purpose. Come on. Jake grabbed Sarah's hand, and together they rushed toward the entrance. No longer just bystanders, the crowd began to solidify into a single determined force. They surged forward, pushing tables and crates against the door, barricading themselves against the unknown. Get the chairs, Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the din. We can strengthen the barrier. People scrambled, grabbing whatever they could find. Jake's heart raced as they formed a line, heaving heavy furniture into place. The young man was right. They couldn't feel safe just waiting for the danger to breach their feeble defenses. Jake turned to Sarah, her face a mask of concentration. Just a bit more, he encouraged her, despite the weight of despair clawing at his thoughts. We're not going to let them in. Their quick teamwork started creating an unlikely sense of camaraderie among the group. Jake exchanged glances with strangers, fear mingled with shared resolve. They were bonded by uncertainty, united by the need to survive. Just as they secured the last chair in place, a loud thud reverberated against the other side of the door. The sound echoed in Jake's chest, a reminder of the threat looming just beyond reach. His resolve wavered, but it was quickly rekindled by the sight of the little girl, clutching her teddy bear tightly, eyes shimmering with fear but full of trust in him. We can do this, he said, his voice low but firm, meeting her gaze head-on. But what if they come in? She asked, her vulnerability cutting through Jake like a knife. He knelt beside her, cupping her cheek with a steady hand. If they do, we'll be ready. Just like a family, remember? We'll protect each other. The girl nodded, and he felt a spark of strength from her belief in him. The soldier barked out orders, his voice now urgent, but it was clear they were out of time. The noise from beyond grew louder, frantic knocking against wood, footsteps getting closer. We can't stop to think, the soldier shouted, urgency deepening his voice. We fight to protect our own. This is it. As fear thrummed through Jake's veins, he realized that they stood on the edge of something monumental. They weren't just trying to survive, they were ready to confront their fate. A tense silence fell over them like a shroud as they prepared for what was to come. Then the door gave way, the noise bursting through like a dam breaking. Shocking and powerful. The room filled with shadows, and Jake felt the familiar grip of fear wrap around his heart. But perhaps more than just survival, this was about fighting back, standing together against the tide. Could they hold their ground, cross that threshold emerging stronger? He took a deep breath, standing tall. A new determination ignited in him. Then came the voice from the shadows, a voice that could signal either salvation or ruin. We're not here to fight. And Jake felt another tumult of emotions rise as a question hung in the air. Was their fight just beginning? Or had they just opened a door into something far more complex? The figure stepped closer, revealing not an enemy, but another survivor. An exhausted woman with a wild look in her eyes, her clothes tattered but her spirit unbroken. We're not here to fight, she repeated, gesturing with urgency. We're seeking refuge. They're coming. They'll destroy everything if we don't stick together. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him, but beneath it lay a pool of caution. This was no time for naivety. Yet, seeing the determination in Sarah's eyes, and the eagerness of the children around them, something inside him solidified. Together they had created a fragile community, and they would fight to protect it. Everyone, listen, Jake shouted, suddenly feeling emboldened. These people need our help just as much as we do. This isn't just about us anymore. His heart raced in rhythm with their heavy breaths. The crowd shifted, those once trembling beginning to solidify their resolve. We must gather supplies, Sarah echoed, her voice rising with an authority Jake had come to admire. And reinforce the barricade. If they come for us, we shouldn't be caught off guard. The young man from the entrance nodded vigorously. There are many more families just outside. We need to create a safe route so we can go out and help them too. The soldier stood beside Jake, taking in the chaotic scene of solidarity forming before him. For the first time, his stern features softened slightly, and the weight of approval sparkled in his eyes. Perhaps they could work together. With a newfound sense of purpose, the teams began to organize. Some gathered blankets and food while Jake, Sarah, and the young man coordinated the barricades, turning desks and chairs into defensive statements that they would not back down amidst the clamor. Laughter slowly punctured the serious air. Jake caught a glimpse of the little girl hugging her teddy bear, nestled beside her mother, who regarded him with cautious admiration. Hope flickered anew, pushing through the curtains of despair that had shrouded them all. "Are we safe now?" the little girl whispered, her innocence grasping at his heart. "For now, yes," Jake assured. "But we must stay together. It's all about the strength we find in one another." And as the hours unfolded, a community began to grow. Families once isolated in their struggles now stood shoulder to shoulder, fortified by shared fears and collective hopes. Laughter mingled with determination, food was distributed freely and joyously, and each warm blanket was a quilt of compassion wrapping around them all. Jake realized this was the transformation he had sought. It wasn't simply about digging coins from his pockets or offering handouts. It was about building bridges, igniting change, and nurturing a spirit of resilience. But suddenly a loud banging on the door sliced through the makeshift warmth. They stiffened, hands clenching around whatever tools they had. But just as fear bubbled to the surface, Jake squared his shoulders and declared, "We will face whatever comes together. We are more than numbers, we are a community." With that, he stepped forward when the door burst open just enough to reveal a flood of children, mothers, and families all holding their heads high, ready to join them. They surged into the room, inflamed with urgency. "Let us stand together side by side," the soldiers shouted, rallying the groups. They fell into formation, an army of hope against the storm of despair. The warmth and vibrancy that filled the room contrasted starkly against the cold reality outside. But for the first time in what felt like ages, Jake felt alive. He was part of something meaningful, powerful, and larger than himself. As hopes entwined, barriers started to crumble not just against the unknown, but within each heart. Jake glanced at Sarah. Her fierce spirit ignited anew, tears glistening like diamonds in her eyes. Together they had overcome so much. "What now?" she asked, breathless, the flicker of uncertainty peeking through her dialogue of hope. "Now we move forward," Jake responded firmly. "Forward, not alone. As a united family, we'll continue to support each other until we find safety for everyone. This is just the beginning, Sarah." And just like that, the joyous noise of affirmation breached the heaviness of despair that dwelled too long in their lives. Families congregated, stories exchanged, dreams rekindled. In the heart of darkness they had triumphed over mere survival, no longer crumbled by despair. They sparkled with renewed hope, and that little shelter. A revolution was born, sparked by an unexpected encounter and unyielding empathy. And as they stood together, knowing their lives would never be the same, echoes of laughter danced through the air, uniting as they held fast onto their dreams. Maybe hope wasn't so dangerous after all. Maybe it was the fire that would lead them home. Don't let this moment pass. This is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people discover transformative power and hope. Comment below with your thoughts on this incredible ending and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support right now. Don't wait not even one more second. Let us spread this message of change.